Good morning, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Premarket webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 13th of May. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to shoot trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers. It's chartingthemarkets.substack.com. It's published on YouTube after a delay of 24 hours. All right, great. Let's have a look at where we are in ES here. Now, I was talking yesterday thinking that we were probably going to see a bit of a decline, and you can see that we've got these sell signals have now made target on ES and NQ. I would quite like to see another day's decline today. Now, the historically weak data this week, and there's only a guideline this, but obviously this is actually a pretty strong number. Historically, on SPX and on Dia, this is a 28% green close day. That is pretty weak, and it's basically 2 days, and the reason that's historically quite a strong pattern is because it's 2 days before OPEX on Friday. We shall see how that goes, but if we are going to see another day's decline, today would be the day. So watching that with interest. We are short on sell signals here on the futures charts, but of course we've now had some fix on the RTH charts, so I'll come to those. In the meantime, ES, we've got the sell signal made target, and we have a potential little level top here. NQ, not quite a little level top, but obviously that yesterday morning sell signal made target as well. RTY, this is interesting. This is actually a pretty nice looking bull flag megaphone. I'm thinking we may well come back in, retest that low, maybe go a bit lower, but I'm thinking this is looking promising for seeing a retest of the high afterwards, because really what I would like to see here, because I'm thinking we may be very close to a high and we may be forming that high now. What I'd like to see here is a bit deeper decline to give us a nice low before the high, i.e. the decline that you tend to see just before the final high is made, and then the main decline begins. I'd quite like to see a bit more if we're going to see that low before the high. We shall see. YM, if we make it up to that target on YM, then maybe we've got a shot at making the new all-time high. Sorry, if we make that target on RTY, maybe we've got a good chance of making that new all-time high on Dia. Don't really care about YM making a new all-time high, but I do care a lot about Dia. We will see whether we get that, but I think that's still on the cards. DAX, probably not going to see a high retest. ESTX, probably not going to see a high retest. Both of those got pretty nice looking double tops as we are now. Nikkei, close to the highs, but I've got it hitting some resistance. Now I'm going to go through, I was saying 2 or 3 weeks ago when we made the last high, when we got to on SPX, when we were here, I was saying that it looked incomplete. The patterns were poor. Generally speaking, when you looked at that setup, they were going to go higher. And we went higher. So on the 15-minute chart, we've now got some pretty decent looking patterns. But let's first have a look at the bigger picture ones that I was talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Looking at SPX, I was looking for this trend line here. Obviously, we hit it. We've slightly overthrown it, which actually makes it a bit more bearish. So we've got 2 main support trend lines here if we see a decline. The first one here is this rising support going through the end of February low, and I've got that in about 6,500 area. But really, the main target, well, we've also got possible head and shoulder neckline down at that low at about 63.17. But the main target here is on the megaphone would be to head back to megaphone support. I've got that about 2,000 points below, and I'm seeing that as a potential target over the summer. We shall see. Now that is the rising megaphone from the 2022 low. This is the rising wedge from the 2025 April low, and I had a trend line there, and well, here we are. We're hitting it now. I'm really thinking we could see the fail right here on Qs. Had a couple of trend lines there. We have reached pretty much the higher one. Have we exactly reached it? Bear with me a moment. I suspect we have. These trend lines always have a tendency to wander a little. So let's have a look. That would be from there through there. Not quite reached that, arguably. But I'm thinking it may well reach it in the next day or two. we will see how that goes. But we're in the area for sure. And equally, we could actually be respecting this line and just have overthrown it. We're certainly in an area where I'm wondering about it. In terms of the cues, on the daily chart, where we've still got nice negative divergence, as long as we don't go up much higher, we could lose that RSI 5 divergence. We came pretty close. And looking at what's happening on semiconductors, it's just wild. But here we've got a possible overthrow of this trend line here, which should be a pretty decent one. But the other one I'm only looking at, I've got to say, on the bigger picture, this looks ambitious. But if we could make it, it's a lovely trend line. It's just beautiful. I've got that up in about 75 area. I'm not convinced we're going to make it. On the other hand, cues have been pretty wild lately, so possibly. In terms of dire, we weren't actually forming a new pattern here. We're actually still topping out, still in the topping process from early this year. This is the one that hasn't made a significant new high, and what I'd really like to just see here is retest the high. I'm still thinking we might get that. In terms of dire, we've got ideally a retest of this here. I did draw in a potential channel here. I'm really not expecting this to deliver. IWM, I had 3 trend lines here. We've reached the first one. I didn't actually post the IWM chart, but I had the chart, and I always try to keep it to 5 charts to post, but or an occasional 6. But I didn't post the IWM one, but we're at a decent one. That's from the April low as well, and we've seen, obviously, yesterday we saw nice back tests of the daily middle band on both IWM and Diet. There's nothing about these charts that isn't looking tactical, and the topping setup now is actually an awful lot more solid now than it was a couple of weeks ago, which is good. I like to see the technical structures looking okay. This one looks nice. ESM, ES, we've got still got an RSI 5 sell signal, no current divergence on the daily. We had a 4-day upper band driver on SPX, and we came off it yesterday. We could potentially resume that, but I'm not expecting it. So really, I'd love to see this go a bit higher. I'm thinking we're running out of time. I think where the oil crunch is close upon us. I've got some nice sell signals on oil today. I'm thinking we may well see a decline on oil today with equities, although I'm not really seeing any of that happening so far. Fingers crossed, though, and that would give us a nice low before the high to go back and retest the highs from. So we shall see. But in the next few days, I think, most likely, we are going to start seeing oil crunching. I think the Trump fake news futures speculation machine that we've been seeing every weekend for a while didn't happen last weekend, and I'm not sure it's going to happen next weekend either. And I think we're running out of opportunities to see significant declines on oils from fake news. The good news, the actual news is bad. The straightforward news has been closed for 76 days, I think, and it's still closed. Longer it remains closed, the bigger the crunch is going to be. All right, so on the daily chart here, we've got a daily RSI 5 sell signal fixed. We didn't get back. SPX and Qs have been leading. We back tested the daily middle bands on both Dia and IWM, but we haven't done that, obviously, on these, but we are potentially now in a topping process. In terms of the hourly charts, we've got, and I like these signals. The last one's failed, but they don't fail a lot. The last one's failed. But here we've now got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed on SPX. We've got another one on Qs, and I would quite like to see those play out today with lower lows than yesterday. We shall see whether we get that. But in terms of the SPX flag, that would look like a bull flag forming, as long as we didn't go too low. So we'll see whether we get that. On the Qs, we pulled back a bit yesterday. Obviously, didn't get anywhere near the daily middle band, but we pretty much made it to the rising support. I would like I'm not really. I've drawn in this trend line here. I'm not really expecting to see it hit, but I drew it in there as a possibility. On the hourly chart, we've got another RSI 14 sell signal fix. I'd like to see that make target today, ideally, because it'd be a good match with the historical stats. And we've got a little buy signal fixed on 15-minute, but the hourly is a bigger and better signal. In terms of dire, we haven't made it back up to the retest of the high here. We do have a nice looking little double top here already, but I'd love to see the retest of the high here to give us a larger potential double top. Won't necessarily get it, but I think there's reason for optimism to think that we still might. On the hourly chart, no divergence, 15-minute chart. We're obviously on the original pattern from, well, we're not showing that, but the original pattern from April last year. And here, the original pattern from the March last year also. We've not made it significantly higher. We've got a potential little level top here. We shall see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at IWM. And IWM, looking at the daily charts, we've gone a little higher. We backtested the daily middle band. This is a nice confirmation of, backtest main support bounce from there. So I'm thinking we might go lower today. We've got a nice RSI 14 sell signal fixed here. We might, if we don't close much lower today, get on a retest of the high, get an RSI 5 sell signal as well. Nothing on the hourly chart really. 15-minute chart. We've got a rising support trend line here. We've got a nice overall looking rising wedge, and we've broken down from that wedge, suggesting that we're in a short-term topping process. In terms of DAX, I'm doubtful about this getting back up into the high. This has been responding more weakly. Europe is being more affected by oil shortages than the US so far, and obviously that's likely to remain the case. At the very least, with the light crude it produces, America's not likely to run short of gasoline. That is an issue in other places. In terms of Nikkei, this is actually a really nice looking rising megaphone. Pretty sure it's a rising megaphone, not a rising channel. This is a lovely rising megaphone. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 touches here. This could overthrow, but I've got to say, this looks ready to roll right now. We don't see a topping pattern on it, but it looks nice, and we've already got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and that hasn't failed. We shall see. All right, let's have a look at DX. DX is kind of lost in space, waiting for action on oil. What I'm waiting to see, and I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen, but last time we saw oil going up a lot, DX went up with it. This could give us a really nice move up into a retest in 114 area. Obviously, that's a very ambitious target. But I have to say, technically, it looks okay. Maybe it will deliver. So we're waiting to see when oil starts hitting new highs with confidence again, what happens on DX and whether that continues going up. At the moment, we've got a little of a push up here, but we're basically, still way short of range resistance, and I'm not reading too much into that. You can see you could draw a square here. As for the range, this has basically been following during this rally on equities. Well, this move up on equities. We're still in that range and heading back towards the top of it. We'll see. All right, looking at the other currencies, not a lot to see. GBP USD, buy signal, but I mean, it's all small stuff, really. Week 6-minute sell signal fixed on CAD. Nothing really happening on CAD. I'm thinking we may be forming a light chess here. USD JPY, we've got a very nice looking potential double bottom. These are promising patterns if the dollar's going to start going up hard, because then these would likely deliver and play out and deliver retests to the prior highs. As I've mentioned on yen before, this was a government intervention against the yen getting too weak, which of course it gets weaker as the USD JPY goes up. If we start heading back into these levels, of course we might see another government intervention, although I'd love to see 162 retested on the bigger picture. All right, let's have a look at bonds. Bonds are pretty close to reaching these lows. I've been fairly consistently bearish on this. We do still have some bullish looking for bonds signals, which haven't either failed or made it possible they missed targets on the bigger picture. I was talking about the bigger picture webinar this morning. But really, bigger picture, I'm leaning short. The triangles are pointing down for bonds, and this bear flag setup and this basically failed double bottom is pointing into retest these lows, and then bigger picture patterns are suggesting that we're going to continue down from there. ZN, almost back at the lows as well. Looking at oils, oil is creeping up. We've not been seeing the news about, oh, a deal's about to be made, Iran's agreed to everything, this sort of fake rubbish we're hearing every weekend for a while. We have not seen that last weekend. I don't think we're probably going to see that this weekend. In which case, we may well find that oil just continues drifting up because, of course, the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. We shall see how that goes, but I'm thinking we may have seen the last significant drop. It'd be lovely to see another one. I am wondering if we might see a burst of optimism when Trump comes back from China for whatever reason, or hopes for peace in the Strait of Hormuz. China's been talking about it and has a 4-point plan, which I suspect has no chance of being implemented. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have a chance of provoking hope that it might be implemented. We shall see how that goes. But really, I think this is on an upward trend, and really, I'm thinking we're likely to see this over 150, certainly, very possibly over 200 within a few weeks. Looking at CL, the same. Looking at HO, already at new all-time highs. We don't really have any more upside targets here, but I'd be expecting it to go up pretty close to the highs on gas oil as well, gasoline rather. In terms of NG, we've got a nice looking IHS here. I'd love to see this make target. Bigger picture is down, and I wouldn't be astonished to see this fail, but it's nice. It's set up very nicely. It's a very nice pattern. I've been talking about it as it's been forming, and it's got a target at 317, and we may make that target. GC, of course, this has been a bit lost in space too during this rally. Again, this is where it was end of March, and here we are now. So we'll see how this goes. But again, we've kind of been trading a range. And what we're going to see when oil starts going up a lot is whether this is going to act as a flight to safety or go down with the other assets, which it was doing before. Personally, I think that when things get rough in oil, this is going to start acting as a flight to safety. Overall, that fits with the bullish picture that I'm seeing on precious metals. We could see some more downside first. SI, bigger picture. I was looking at the daily silver chart today. This is actually a pretty nice looking bear flag. I'm wondering if it might deliver. Palladium still looks like bearish consolidation. Platinum, less so now. It's made a new rally high, but we could be developing a bigger flag there too. HG, we had a sell signal here. It went straight through it. And what I was talking about, I was saying that I wanted to see HG make a new high with equities. We have seen the new high on HG. So that is another target and key level that has been reached. We haven't quite hit all of them, but I'm wondering if we've hit enough. We will see how that goes. But I'm leaning short here at this stage on copper, so we'll see how that develops. In terms of the other commodities, KC, we had a bearish triangle formed for a month or so, couple of months, and that broke down, retested the low. This is a potential level bottom, and watching to see how it goes from here. But so far, this is encouraging for a sizable rally. SB, we had a head and shoulders breakdown here, and it failed. So I'm expecting to see a retest this high here in the 15.5 area. We'll see what happens then. CC, we had a bear flag channel. It broke up. This was the target for the bear flag channel breaking up, and it's made that, and it's pulling back a bit at the moment, as these often do at targets. Waiting to see what happens from here. Do I have a potential inverted head and shoulders forming? Possibly, but it's not great. Watching with interest. Arguably, this was the right shoulder, but to be honest, it looks kind of unbalanced anyway. I'm keeping an open mind. We will see what happens from here. CT, obviously, we still haven't made the bigger picture double bottom target, which it's broken up from. I'm looking higher. Lumber, wondering if this is going to resume the downtrend when equities top. Wheat has broken up from the big double bottom there. And is still some way short of target, leaning long. Short term, looks like we've got a 60-minute sell signal, which might fix and might see a bit of a pullback after yesterday's very strong move up. On corn, hasn't broken up from the double bottom yet. I'm expecting this to go higher, break up from it, and then go a lot higher. Soy, I was talking to a friend of mine was talking to a farmer in Lincolnshire here in the UK, obviously. But I mean, and talking about fertilizer prices, he said they'd tripled since February rather. This is going to have an impact. This is going to restrict the supply. That's going to move prices up. Soy, I'm thinking this is an IHS right shoulder forming. I'm looking for that to break up. I'm expecting all of these to deliver sizable gains over the next few months. ZL, pretty close to the highs already. Live cattle looks like it's forming a bull flag to go back to the highs. And Lean hogs. We've got a lovely looking nested double bottom here. I'd love to see this go up. Obviously, we'd need to find some buyers there, and they've been a little thin on the ground lately. I do think that having got this far below the 61.8% retracement, this is actually no longer likely to be a bull flag. But it doesn't mean it's not going to go up. We shall see. All right, great. Let's have a quick look at questions. If Treasury revalues gold reserves, do you think that will impact GLD prices at all? I don't see really why they would. It could impact them if they start selling them, but I don't think they're going to do that. So I do think gold's got a date back. I think we're going to be looking at an interesting, in a Chinese sense, not particularly fun, interesting period in the markets coming up here, and it's hard to see how gold's not going to do well. We've got that lovely bull flag channel that's telling us we're likely to see at least a retest of the high, of the all-time high, and I'm expecting to see that. I'm thinking we could go considerably higher. I think the main thing I'm really watching for gold is that, and this is actually, hang on 1 second, I saved this chart this morning. This is going to be the chart of the day, today or tomorrow, I can't remember which, but have a look at this chart here. And this is not great for my bullish patterns on US dollar, but it's pretty damn good for the gold. Look at that. That is the share of global foreign currency reserves in US dollars over the last 25 years. You can see it's been going down a lot. If it continues going down, it's good for gold. And in fact, part of that revaluation is because of the fact that gold's gone up a lot already. Some of it is because people are moving away from gold. That, as that continues to decline, chances are it is going to continue to decline. That's got to be good for gold. I remain bullish on gold. I love gold and silver. All right, great. And frankly, all of the precious metals. We shall see. All right, great. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. All right, cheers.